Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how climbing your inner peaks and summoning your inner mountains can help you to become a giant? Well, we got a great show for you. We've got an eloquent guest today. He's so excited to be here. Let's go. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, your co-host for today's crazy and adventurous show, and the co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants, and 12 Journeys coaching. And
All the
I'm here with
things.
all the things, and I'm here with
All the
Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. The reason why we do this, it's all your fault. So thank you for that.
things.
We love it, dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man.
He does so dang much for the tribe and for all the people that he comes into contact with. So thanks, Mr. Nicholas T. Smith. You are the man.
Thank you, man.
Um, eloquent is an underutilized word. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Mark, just before the show. We're gonna have an eloquent and amazing, probably the best show we've ever done here in just a couple
Yeah, I
minutes.
mean,
But
every one of them is,
yeah,
right? The
yeah, of
best show we've
course.
ever done.
Yeah. And this
Well,
message needs to get out, but
I've seen some of the other episodes Nick sent me links to,
yeah.
and if there's any chance, that I can contribute something in comparison to some of your previous guests, it'll be a miracle.
Uh,
We're into
we're all
creating
about
miracles.
miracles. Yeah.
Yeah. That's us, miracle workers.
You know, my favorite definition of a miracle is something that was unexpected that makes you smile.
And it's already been
Oh, hey,
done.
that's cool.
Oh,
Right? We can do that.
we just took the pressure off. That's
Very
it.
cool.
Well,
Nice.
and at home, if you haven't gone to 12 Journeys, coach, 12journeys.com, my12journeys.com, go. Look at me.
Got
See, I'm not very eloquent this morning either. But Mark, if I can do it, you can do it. We're going to be just fine. But my12journeys.com, go there, check it out, sign up. There's so much content, so much value there. You're going to love it. So it's going to help you in your
Nice.
journey. That's why it's called my12journeys.com, because we're all going through a crazy journey and we need a little bit of assistance. Sometimes this is a fantastic place, and that's where this show is going to end up at some point.
At some point. Yeah, I want to hit on the 12 journeys just briefly here before we dive in.
Let's
because,
do it.
You know, people tend to ask us, what are the 12 journeys? I have no idea. They come into our community, they're a part of it, and they still don't know what the 12 journeys are. But what they are is a framework that was created from the book, The Giants and the Smalls. And it's 12 journeys that deal with the inner world, your root journeys, everything that's going on in here and who you think you are. And then your growth journeys, which deal with expanding and growing into your world around you and doing more than you were born with. And then your legacy, which is leaving an impact. And people are at different stages here depending on their life. But some people are really doing their root work. Some are doing their growth work. Some have done their growth work and want to leave a legacy. So we try and hit all of those areas. So you've got 12 journeys that encompass all of those areas that really help you have a holistic change in your life that tends to be permanent. Mm-hmm. So people that have gone through the program don't go back to being the way they were. So if you don't want to change, don't come to our program, because it'll be bad for that. Right?
Well, you kind of nailed it.
Yeah.
You kind of nailed it right there when you said, who do you think you are? Isn't that the proverbial question someone would ask if you've offended them or so? Who do you think you are? Well, that's really the right question, because who you think you are is what defines what you will become. Who do you think you are?
I love it. And we could even just dive in right here, Mark. I mean, we can introduce you a little bit and let people know who you are. But let's do that. Let me introduce you and let's dive in right there with that statement. Does that work? He's like, nope. Don't want to do that.
Well, that was the one thing, and it's amazing. That was fantastic, actually. That should be a wristband, like a bracelet. I've got these bracelets on that's like trust the process, and a little
Yeah.
one from Cos Green that says be more elfish. We should have
Yep.
one that says who do you think you are?
I think we should, or a shirt. Who do you think you are? Right.
Yeah.
Mark, let me introduce you and let's dive into that question. So today we're stepping into the
That's the right
extraordinary
question
world.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. So Mark Petersen is an adventurer whose spirit truly knows no bounds. From conquering 6 of the 7 continental high points to trekking the Appalachian Trails entirety. So the whole thing. Mark's journeys are tales of resilience, endurance, and the pure thrill of discovery. And when he's not navigating the world's peaks, he crafts his legacy at the Mystery Rock Outdoor School in Utah, mastering the arts of bow hunting and blacksmithing. His life is a testament to living in harmony with nature, a true embodiment of what it means to be a giant in the world. So we hope you'll join us today in his remarkable adventures and the serene beauty of his ranch, which I'd love to see one day, where each crafted piece and every trail conquered tells the story of a man who's not only challenges the limits of the human spirit, but also nurtures the skills and traditions that connect us to the earth. And we're lucky enough to have you here with us. And I want to dive right into that statement. Who do you think you are? Why did that hit you right there? I don't know if we're frozen, maybe a little bit. So maybe we can be ventriloquists with him.
Well,
Whoa, Nick. Ryan, what about you? Like, why does that statement hit while we're waiting for his signal?
Well, the one thing that man, I didn't expect that, first of all.
Yeah.
But having him say that made me reflect inwardly and go, who am I?
Yeah.
The question. It's what Rit asked, as he's looking up, he's looking at possibilities, and then he takes a look at his life. There's a scene in the book. Let me see if I can grab it. There's a scene in the book where he's got his hands in his face.
Yep.
And he's sitting there reflecting.
I lost you for a second.
You're good. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna just make
We'll
a point
pull
real quick. But there's this picture in the book, The Giants and the Smalls, where he's thinking about, who am I? Who is Rit?
Oh, yeah.
And Rit's sitting there contemplating his life of what he's been up to that point. And I think it's a fantastic thing to do because it helps you to see your weak points. It helps you to see your growth areas. It helps you to see really what's going on internally, so that you can do something about it if you want to. I mean, Rit had a choice. There was nothing to do unless you wanted to do something. Well, Rit was sick and tired of being in the position that he was, and he wanted something more. He maybe didn't know how to get there, so he did what was natural, and you went go climb a giant. That's what you do. That's natural.
Talking about summiting mountains, right?
Right.
And as we look at this today with Mark, it's really these inner mountains that we're climbing. It has nothing to do with the outer world. Like, who you think you are will determine what mountains you decide to climb within you, right? The biggest challenges that you face. Mark,
I like
are you
this.
able to hear
I like
us there?
this too, because this says, it's not instantly life changing. It might not be. I mean, it might be the fulcrum, or that tipping point of life changing events that could happen from that point.
Wi-Fi connection.
But it's a lot of times it's not the life changing thing. It's not going to all of a sudden just make you all perfect or exactly what you thought. You don't just become instantly that person. You start doing doing. You start learning how to become that person.
Well, there you are, man. I think we got you back. We found that the best shows that we have are the ones with the most technical issues. So this is going to be
great, because this is going to be a perfect show then, because we've already lost internet twice.
Yeah,
it's perfection. So we're great, man.
I'm out here in my workshop because we've got a birthday party going on in the house, and there's 15 to 20-year-old girls in there making all the noise in the world. So
we wouldn't be able to hear a thing you say in there, right?
No,
Okay,
not
so
at all. So you have to live with the background of my workshop in the
I love
background
it.
here.
It's like
Man,
Tim the Toolman Taylor. I love it in there. That looks cozy and awesome. It makes me want to build something like right now.
that's a man's
It's a
man
great,
right there.
It's a great space for sure.
Well, let's get your view on this. You know, this question is really the start of our journeys. When we do the 12 journeys, we look at the non-conscious journey usually first, which is who you think you are. Who do you think you are? And that question, who do you think you are, is everything. Because who you think you are tells you what challenges you're facing, what dreams you're building in the world, what legacy you want to leave. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Mark.
Yeah, so obviously the power of our mind to conceive is, I can't remember how the exact quote goes, but what you can conceive and believe you can achieve.
Yeah.
And I may have got that somewhat somewhat wrong, but the idea is still sound in that what you think, who you think you are, you more than likely will become. If you live a life of, man, this happened to me, or man, look at the bad stuff that has happened to me, or look at all of the circumstances that I'm faced with, rather than and that's kind of like a victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
Where things happen to me. I love that quote that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% what I choose to do about it. So, and I also love the quote that says there's two types of people in the world: those who act and those who are acted upon. And so who do you think you are and deciding who you want to be, that's the act. Who do you think you are, defined by what has happened to you, is those who are acted upon.
Yeah, I think life is a lot like a laggy internet. You know, it's like you go out there and you create something, and then there's this lag, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know, you know, if this is gonna happen. You got to trust it. And a lot of times what comes up, what gets lagged, is whatever we're thinking of ourselves. So if we're thinking from a space of negativity and disempowerment, then a lot of times we create that in their world, and there's a little bit of a lag, but that past creates our present, which is our future at the time it's created, but it's our present. It's always our present. And I think it's so vital that people really dive into, like, who you're defining yourself as is everything. Now there's a story. There's two ways to look at this. You can look at it from the victim state of, this is what happened to me and this is why I am the way I am. Right. Or you can look at it as, this is how I became who I am, but I'm not resigned to it. Does that make sense? What does that bring up for you?
I think it allows some freedom to an individual who adopts that attitude, that this is what has happened and this is how it has shaped me to be what I am. I always think of the what do you call it? The Potter's Bowl, where there's a story, the little kid's story about the Potter's Bowl. And I was just happy, being this clay, and my whole world was great, everything was awesome. And then all of a sudden somebody grabbed me, they squeezed me, they spun me around, they poked holes in me, they pushed me around, and now beautiful bowl. And I have purpose, and now I have a thing. So you can choose that these outside circumstances were harsh on you, or you can choose that these outside circumstances pushed you around and whatever, but it made you what you are, the Potter's Bowl.
Yeah, I want to dive into your story, because you were essentially that clay in your world. You had experiences that for a lot of people could have broken them. They could have used the story or the justification that they're broken because of the things that they've been through. And are you okay sharing a bit about your journey of how you got to where you are today? Like some of the things you've gone through, some of the biggest challenges? Yeah. Will you do that?
I mean, have you ever had Have you ever had a guest say, no?
Yeah.
Just
And then we
laughs.
push them anyway.
Like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So tell us about the
All
time.
right. Tell us
Tell
about
us
another
about third
time.
grade. Would you tell us
Yeah.
about third grade?
Well, there's this time in band
So-
camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nick, I'm not sure exactly what story you want to share, so I'm just going to stab in the dark. But
You do it.
If I had to define who Mark Petersen is, I'm a ridiculously lucky person who happened to be in the right place at the right time for just a lot of really cool experiences, most of which I had no business being in. Like when I tell people I'm a mountain climber and I've climbed 6 of the 7 summits, meaning every continent, 7 continents, every continent has a high point. And I have stood on the top of 6 of those high points. And everybody always, oh, did you do Everest? No, I didn't do Everest. I have a really good reason why we didn't do Everest, but a team of mine, but we did K2 instead, which arguably is equivalent or better than
I think he lost you
Everest.
at physical movement, dude.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. I would watch that. Like that's the stuff like I watch and I'm like, that's fun. That's fun for them hiking.
Did you do Aconcagua?
That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, that's the high point in the South American continent.
Yeah.
And we went up the Chilean side and then down the Argentinian side. But we did that in 2002, I think.
But keep going. I don't want to take us too far off track. So tell us about that. So keep going with this line of these 7 peaks.
Okay, so it's obviously a goal for lots of people, and in the process of climbing these peaks, I was able to gain some professional training from the American Alpine Institute, and I was able to become a certified mountaineering guide.
Okay.
And I guided on Kilimanjaro multiple times. I guided on Rainier and Mount Baker. And in the process of just having the guide experience on Mount Rainier, mountain guides, I should say, are largely professional babysitters to some degree. So the job itself can be tedious. Not that you get tired from climbing the peaks, and not that you get tired from carrying a load, and not that you get tired of tying everybody's knots and going through the safeties and making sure they have enough to eat and they're staying hydrated. But it's more about you really need me to hold your hand the entire time we're walking up this mountain. And I mean hold hand like, hey, I know you've taught me this not 20 times. I know that whatever. I don't know how to filter my water. Okay, I'll go filter your water again. You're 40 years old. You're a CEO of a very, very high tech company, and you can't figure out a water filter. But it's okay. It gets old.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, no judgment. It's okay.
It gets old after a minute. Yeah. So anyway, this story begins with me deciding at the end of one of these very tedious mountain climbing guiding services, I decided to do, like I had some time off. Yeah. I decided to do what mountain guides do. We climb mountains. So this was a Tuesday. The trip had ended on a Tuesday, and it was an over the weekend trip. And I was down at the trailhead to Mount Rainier, and I decided, hey, I'm free. I don't have to work again until Friday. So I'm going to take a couple of days. I'm just going to go summit the mountain by myself. I'm not guiding anybody. I'm not babysitting anybody. I can move fast. I can do what I want to do. So that Tuesday afternoon, I went to the ranger station and I got myself a permit. Like I'm putting my name on the list so somebody knows that I'm there. And the next morning, Wednesday morning, I woke up super early and I parked in the parking lot, and I'm driving a van, right, that has the name of the guiding service on it. I'm parked in the parking lot, and I take off, and I'm making really great time. I mean, it was probably by about noon. Now, going up to what's considered to be a lesser traveled route. The most traveled route on Mount Rainier is Disappointment Cleaver, but that particular route is that franchise for that route is almost completely owned by a company called RMI, Rainier Mountaineering Inc. And it's just a highway of people throughout in the busy season. It's just busy, busy, busy.
Wow. I had no idea.
But I was on
you could franchise that. That's interesting.
Well, they sort of have.
They've cornered it basically.
They own that route.
Yeah.
But they basically, that's their route. And so I was on a route called the Emmons Glacier route. It's a less scenic route. It's a little bit higher in mileage, not crazy amount, but you go a different direction up the mountain. But what you end up doing is you cross the Emmons Glacier, and the Emmons Glacier is known for being sort of a little bit unstable. It sits on the western side of the mountain, more or less, and so it gets that whole afternoon setting sun. So the snow bridges that cross the Emmons Glacier are a little bit more dangerous. They can get soft at the end of the season. You know, August, late July, August, even into early September. The snow bridges are a little less. So I'm walking along, and I'm using a probing pole that they use for avalanche control. So I'm probing this pole, and it's kind of like a big tent pole, but it locks together. And I'm probing this ahead of me to test the strength of the snow bridge. And everything seemed fine. I'm hiking along with my pack. Pack probably weighs about 45 to 50 pounds ish. And all of a sudden, and I mean all of a sudden, like no warning, no sound, no cracking, no nothing. I just felt my feet come out from underneath me, and I am cascading down into a crevasse. Now, for those that don't know what a crevasse is, it's a French word, and as are most mountaineering terms, the French pretty much pioneered what we know as modern day mountaineering. But I'm falling in a crack in the ice. So think about a layer cake, and you put the frosting over the layer cake to hide all those cracks and those crevices and pits. Well, once you fall through the icing, which is the snow on top, you're just in one of the cracks inside this mountain.
I think that's why the French named it that. You know, you fall right in the ass crack.
Right on, right, like that.
Right on.
That's what I said.
Right on.
Right? With an
so
accent.
I'm falling sort of my back sort of backwards, and I'm seeing the crack and this little light getting smaller and smaller, and then all of a sudden I land on my back, and I take a second. The world had stopped. I take a second and I look up, and there's just this little fissure in the crack that I could see light through. I had fallen 30 feet.
Oof.
So that's a 3-story building onto my back. And so then I gather my wits about me, and I go to stand up, only I realize I'm standing on a block of ice that had fallen previously, who knows how long ago, and had gotten wedged into the crack. Holy crap. So there was still another 100 feet below me on both sides. So I'm standing up on a chair like this, knowing that you go a little to the left and you go a little to the right. I'm off into a further precipice. So think of the absolute sheer luck.
Right.
Anywhere along that route, if I would have been just this way or a foot that way, I would have kept tumbling. So I'm already at this point considering myself extremely lucky. You talked about gratitude in one of the points and topics. Be prepared to talk about that. Well, yeah. ridiculously grateful at this moment. So, okay, I'm like, all right, I have this philosophy, and it's a mountaineering philosophy that says the best rescue is self-rescue.
Mm.
Can't sit around waiting for somebody else to rescue you. So self-rescue is the best rescue, is that term. So I immediately set about rescuing myself. The first thought that came through my mind is, I'm going to have to climb out of here. So I was already wearing my spikes. I had an ice axe, which, by the way, was tethered to the back of my backpack, and the spike was facing this way when I fell.
Oof, holy
And when
crap.
I fell, one of the things I noticed was I looked this way and there's a spike.
Oh my gosh.
So on an ice axe, there's what's called the picolet, and then what's called the adze. This was the picolet port that was sticking out. And so I'm, again, very grateful. This was the second thing. Could have took an eye out, could have went through my skull. I mean, a million different things. So I'm like, I have to climb out of here. So I precariously stood up, started managing my ropes and managing my resources. I put an ice screw on the left side of the crevasse. I put an ice screw a little bit higher up on the right side, as far as I could reach and as far as I could turn that ice screw. Then I tethered my ropes between the two, took off my pack, hung the pack to the end of my rope, because I thought, I'm not going to be able to climb up with the pack on. And I'm not going to be able to, and once I do climb up, I want to be able to pull my pack back up, because it
Can I pause right here? Because I really want to anchor this into human behavior. Okay. Like, and then have you continue. But you were where you were, right? You landed in that spot. It's not ideal. It's not where you wanted to be, but you immediately acknowledge that you are where you are. And then you express gratitude. These are part of the journey. So one of the journeys that we have is called acceptance, which is acknowledging where you are. The other journey is gratitude, which is recognizing the positive in where you are. But the third thing you did, which I think is very powerful, is you took inventory of your resources and you anchored yourself in so that you wouldn't slide backward, that you wouldn't lose your resources. Like, this is important in human behavior, because when you're in a bad spot and you're summiting those mountains of life and you're in that not ideal situation, first thing you want to do is acknowledge where you are, anchor yourself in, give gratitude for where you're at, because it could be a lot different. Look for the positive, but anchor yourself in. That's the journey of empowerment, because now you're working to prevent yourself from sliding even further backward, which is like, I heard a quote. The guy said, you'd outperform 90% of the people in the world if you wouldn't self-sabotage in your lows. And I want to pull this back to your story, right?
Cool. So I'm gonna talk about that in a second too. But so I have this phrase that I live by, and it's a quote that I bastardized. So the real quote by Theodore Roosevelt is a little bit different, but the way I say it is: start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So
start where you are, use what you have.
I'm right here.
Yep.
I'm right here. There's nothing I can do to change the fact that I'm right here, right now.
Wow.
So I knew also at that moment that I'm stronger now than I'm going to be tomorrow, because I've eaten food. My energy level is at my highest. I am the most determined to get out of here. If I just sit and go, man, why is me? Oh, this really sucks. Shit. Tomorrow, if I keep that attitude, I'm less capable of getting myself out. So I'm the most capable right now, starting right now,
this is so
where
powerful.
I am.
Yep.
Using what I have and doing what I can.
Now, did you leap from that ice block to the hole? Did you jump out of it, like 30-foot jump, and you made it out? Is that how you got out? I'm being facetious here.
I wish.
I want to make a point here.
So
yeah.
So there's a problem about where I was, and that was the walls of the ice.
Yeah.
So the walls of the ice were I could touch both sides. Matter of fact, I could touch both sides like this.
Okay.
And so I could do what's called a stem, where you put one foot and one arm, and you're kind of like you're pushing against one wall. You could put your back against the wall and put your feet against the wall.
Okay.
But the wall started to get wider and wider. And then it did this little bell thing where the top was very narrow, but the space was wider than 8 feet. And I'm 5'10", so I mean the furthest I could push is 5'10" ish,
Right.
or 6
Right.
feet. And so I'm trying to climb this up. I've got great foot purchase because I've got spikes. I've got one ice axe. Well, if you ever watch ice climbing, they're using two. And they're using two that have different shapes to the picolets. There's no adze typically. There's just a hammer on the head to help with putting in protection. So I got as far as I could get with the width of it, and I only think that was about 10 feet, maybe 12 feet. And then it would start to be wider than what I could manage. But I still kept thinking, maybe there's another technique. Maybe there's something else I can do. Well, I only had the 2 ice screws. So one was holding my pack and the bottom part of my rope as sort of a protection. And the other one was as far up as I could go on the wall. And so I removed that one and I got as high as I could. And then I put that one in just a little bit higher, but it wasn't enough. So hour after hour, until I couldn't see light anymore, I had just exhausted myself trying everything I could to get out. So then it's dark now. I'm in this crevasse. I'm absolutely exhausted. I mean, I don't know how long you can do pull-ups, but I was doing pull-ups for hours, pulling myself up, pushing with my legs, trying to do everything I could to get out. And I couldn't. Okay, so I thought, all right, new plan. I've got to come up with a new plan because self-rescue is still the best rescue. My new plan can't involve I'll wait around for someone to see me. I still have to do something. So I took inventory and I was like, okay, I've got plenty of food. I've got unlimited water around me because all this ice I could melt. I had fuel for my stove. I had a pot. I had a sleeping bag. I had warm, dry clothes. And I have this wonderful place to stand.
Yeah.
So what's my new plan? So I'm wearing a harness, right? I'm roped in to these 2 points. And while I couldn't lay down luxuriously and take a nap, I could lean into my harness, and I rigged a little rope chest support so I could clip into that and sort of put most of my body weight in. But just leaning all of the weight of my body, my legs, it would cut the circulation off of my legs. So I'd have to shift. So I could sleep for about 20 to 25 minutes and then have to move and then fall back into a desperate sleep, 20 to 25 minutes, and then do that. But I came up with this plan. 30 feet up, or so I think. I have a probing pole. Well, the probing pole is 20 feet. So I'm 5'10". When I hold my hands up, I'm somewhere around 8 feet. So 20 feet plus 8 feet is 28 feet. Gosh, what do I have? That's another couple of feet because I need to get a message out. So I tied this little flag to the top of the pole. I duct taped my ice axe to the bottom of the pole. Ice axe is about 27 to 28 inches. I'm like, bingo, I'm out of the hole. So if I stand like this and I wiggle the ice axe attached to the pole, attached to a flag, somebody will see that flag because it's bright yellow. It was the bag for my tent. So my tent yellow, the yellow tent bag. So I'm wiggling this thing. So yes, I am dependent on someone seeing that, but I'm still taking the action to rescue myself.
Mark,
for them.
Yeah, this is like the most profound conversation right here. The metaphor in your experience. Hang on to the flag thing. I want to come back to this real quick, but I want to just anchor in these key points too. Like you hit the ice, you climb up to a certain level. you redo the entire process, looking at inventory. What can I do? What are some next steps? But you prioritized rest, which I think is so important, because people think if I'm in a struggling situation and I've got to pull out of this, I can't rest. There's no time for rest. But all you're doing is you're exhausting yourself sooner. So you've got to prioritize some kind of rest as you're trying to grow out of this. And then when you put the flag on the pole, which was an ingenious way to rescue yourself, the possibility is somebody will see that, but you're not depending on that being the way you get out of there. Is that accurate? Like, you're still working toward a solution. Maybe that's the solution. It's one of many ways I can try. Can you speak to that a little bit,
Yeah.
and then continue?
Well, this was long before the days of like your spot satellite transceivers. You know, I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a way to get a message out. I didn't expect that there was going to be a rescue party coming out because Mark Petersen didn't make it down. I found out afterwards, and I'm glad I didn't think about this during the time, but I found out afterwards that the ranger who issued my permit saw the van sitting right there, and it's got a guide service ticket on it. They're not worried that mountain guides are going to need rescue. So they never called for rescue. They never even expected. They just thought, man, mountain guides are dumbasses sometimes, because they'll file for their permit, they'll log their route, but then forget to tell us that they made it back, or whatever. Yeah. They're just like Mark Petersen's on the mountain again. All right, here we go. So I'm waving this flag, and yeah, I did rest, but I will tell you, I rested with guilt, because I kept thinking all the while, I'm really thirsty, but if I stop getting the flag out, if I stop for 10 seconds, what if that's the 10 seconds that someone's eye would have crossed the horizon and saw this flag? This is a big mountain. Mount Rainier is not tiny. And even if you're on a quote unquote route, it's not like it's a paved and marked trail the whole way. Someone's following footsteps, maybe, but the footsteps that are trodden down in a trail, if any of you've ever hiked on an icy trail, where the footsteps trotted down is the slipperiest. So sometimes people go off the trail a little because it's fresh snow, it's fresh powder, it's a little easier to walk on, you get better traction. So I had some expectation that someone would at some point in time see this, or at least that was my hope, because I had to act as if someone was going to see this.
Yeah.
So wiggling the flag. When my arms would get tired, I'd wiggle with this arm, and then I'd wiggle with this arm, and then I'd wiggle with this arm. And then I got to the point where I couldn't wiggle anymore. My arms were too tired. I would just hold them up and step up with my toes.
Wow.
Calf raises, essentially. Somebody's got to see this. So this repeat cycle. When it would get dark, I figured no one's going to see it. This was long before the days that I had extra like glow sticks or something I could tie to the top. I was like, somebody's got to see this during the day. It's got to be daylight. So I did this cycle of try to get some sleep at night, try to eat at night, try to drink water at night. But during the day, nonstop, continuous movement of the flag. Well, hour after hour, day after day, all of a sudden, I hear this voice. And what it was a guy who was hiking by himself. He didn't speak English very well. And he was reaching for what he thought was just somebody's discarded tent bag. And all of a sudden, that was when I had moved it down, and it went down in a hole. And he's like, huh? And then it pops back up. He's freaking out. Well, I hear a voice. I have no voice left because I've already been going, hey, for days. Trying to call him out. Long story short, he had no idea how to rescue me. So I'm calling up to him things that he should do, like take everything out of his pack, pack his pack full of snow, take every bag that he had, pack those full of snow, and spread them out in the snow and bury your pack in the snow. So it's an anchor to help raise me up. And then he was able to throw a very, very small, not a rescue rope, but like cord down to the bottom, tie it to my cord, pull my rope up and anchor it. And then it was many, many, many hours later that he was able to finally get me up. And, you know, after crying like a baby for a while because I had been rescued, I realized Sunday. I had been in the crevasse for 5 days. Wednesday afternoon to almost Sunday evening. So super grateful for this moment. We gathered all my stuff, hiked down to the trailhead. I left a note with the ranger that I was out, and it was a facetious note, kind of like, I mean, now that I think about it, it was a facetious note because it was like, hey, I know you're worried about me and everything, but I got out. Needless to say that they didn't worry about me at all.
No jab there.
They didn't even know I was missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't mean it like that. But now that I look back on it, it was like, that was probably a little bit sarcastic. But so many lessons in life that I learned through that. The biggest lesson I learned is while I thought I was a pretty awesome mountain guide, I was a really bad ice climber. I was really ill prepared to climb out of there. I didn't have 2 ice axes. I have since gone to classes on ice axe use and ice climbing, and I made sure to improve all of my skills, navigation skills, communication skills, always traveled with a satellite device now. I'm a much better mountain guide, even though I've sort of retired from mountain guiding. I'm a much better mountain guide than I was good.
Yeah.
Now hearing your story, I retired.
Right. I went on to guide still after that for many, many years, including Rainier. And I was a much better mountain guide than I ever was previous to that event.
You know, Mark, I don't think there are any accidents. I wrote this morning, not really knowing what we're going to talk about, you know, but I wrote this article this morning, and I want to spend the rest of the show talking about this power move, small steps. They're your power moves when life gets hard. And this is in our My 12 Journeys community. If you guys want to read that article, it's in there. But I'm going to stop that share real quick. The idea here of what happened to you is what happens to all of us when we get into struggles, when we're climbing that summit of our lives and it just feels impossible. Like we're in an impossible situation. And that's what this article is about. And that's what you're talking about here is when life gets hard, your primary responsibility is to acknowledge, appreciate, and anchor in as much as you can where you're at, right? And then you work toward self-solution, right? So you're working towards some kind of self-resolution. And I think it was, I want to give it to T. Harv Eker, but I don't think it was him. He said, no one is coming to rescue you. And when we take on that mindset that no one is coming to rescue you, it doesn't mean that there won't be people that participate in your rescue, just like you. Like you needed that help from other people in order for you to be rescued, but you had to do your part. And if you look at the scale of your part compared to their part, you had to put a lot of effort into it. And it was all you could give in the situation you were in. And you used whatever resources you had available to you to elevate yourself as high as you could get on your own. And then this man comes along and helps you get the rest of the way out. Right. And a lot of times in our lives, we have people come along that are unexpected like that you're hopeful that somebody will see you and help you grow from this. But we have to do our part. If we're not doing our part, then they don't see the flag. If we're not doing our part, then they don't even know we're there. Right.
Right.
And it's a combination of doing your part and letting people know what you're up to, right? Because if you hadn't raised that flag, you probably wouldn't have come out of that hole, right?
No question about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no question. So once I got out, just to add to that story,
Right.
it had snowed 3 of those days that I was in the crevasse. So my footsteps leading up to the crevasse, and then because I kept thinking down there, someone's going to see my footsteps and realize my footsteps don't continue. And where did this guy go? Did he get picked up by aliens or something? So
if they even wonder that, right?
Yeah. If they even knew, right? If they were conscious enough to even notice that. But all my footsteps were covered by the snow. So there was no chance someone was going to just all of a sudden wonder who fell in this hole. So, and the snow bridges were slowly becoming covered and everything else. But I've got another interesting story, and I don't know if this is a good time to try to share it. We've only got
let's do it.
12 or 13 more minutes.
Yep.
So this is a little bit more about the gratitude side and trying to also help yourself in this long journey that we have. So when I say long journey, I'm going to compare that to another long journey that I took, and that is I hiked the Appalachian Trail from end to end.
Okay.
And it's a long trail. It's like 2,200 miles. It just depends on it's interesting because some people say, well, you don't know how long the trail is. Can't you just measure it? Well, it changes all the time. Every year, an avalanche might come through and wipe out a portion of the forest, and they reroute the trail. Towns where the trail goes through reroutes it so that you don't have vagabonds, what look like vagabonds or homeless people walking through your town. So they change things, and so the exact mileage changes all the time. Call it 2,200 miles. So I had an interesting experience where and it took me 4 months to do this. And so I'm about halfway through the journey, and I'm at a hostel. And at this hostel, it's actually it's actually pretty much halfway through. The hostel's in Damascus, Virginia, and the hostel is called The Place. It's weird, but it's an old house that the city probably bought and converted into a place where they could keep people out of their parks, camping, and setting up tents in people's front yards.
Yeah.
At this hostel was a washing machine. At this hostel was hot water. So I decided to take all my clothes off, put them in the washing machine. I put on my poncho. So imagine like you go into a ball game or whatever, and they sell those little plastic ponchos.
Yeah.
That's what I kept.
And
so that was the only item of clothing.
Right.
Well, this one was like a green color, so there was a little bit of whatever. But I'm just, you just
it's
take
not jaded in the best parts. Yeah.
Right. It's not. So I take this and I go take a shower. All my stuff's on the bed. I had laid it out to kind of like be organized, kind of let things air out. I had hung my sleeping bag up and stuff, and I'm trying to like use this opportunity to sort of regroup. And this was a Sunday afternoon, and I get out of the shower and I go to my bunk, and I thought I was at the wrong bunk because there was nothing there. So I walked around inside this place, and I'm like, this was the bunk I picked. This was all my stuff. Somebody had come in and they stole everything. They even stole my wet laundry out of the washing machine. Underwear, socks that I've been wearing for weeks. What?
So you're just
they stole it all. I mean, these socks smelled like corn chips, like you couldn't believe. This was bad. But they stole my wallet.
Oh my gosh,
they stole my ID. They stole my bank card. They stole any cash I might have had. They stole everything. I had the poncho. Oh my
gosh.
That was it. And so, not to make this long story, but I was able to finally get a copy of my driver's license by going to the library, and I got
in a poncho.
A bank. Yeah. Well, the lady next door to the hostel, I knocked on her door, and there's a lot more to this story, but I'm trying to make it short. So she gave me some of her husband's clothes. Just a pair of pants, these were like Dockers pants, and like some Vans or these were absolutely unworthy of being out on the trail with. So I was able to go back. I got some money from the bank finally a couple of days later. So now it's like Tuesday, and I'm ready to go resupply. So I go to Kmart and I'm trying to like remember everything that I had, and I'm putting all these items in the cart, and I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, why do I need this much stuff? Because what you start out with on the trail, what you think you need, you end up not needing. I have this theory, and I sort of created this theory on my own from years of just thinking about it. But when we go on any kind of expedition, and even an expedition of change, you pack your fears. An example is, if you're afraid of the dark and you go backpacking, you have a lot of flashlights, or you make sure you have a lot of flashlights. I was putting these flashlights. And I was going through this thing. I was like, why do I need this many flashlights? I had, prior to this event, I had a flashlight that hung inside the dome of the tent. I had a flashlight on my zipper. I had a flashlight. I had like this camp lantern. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong? Am I afraid of the dark or something? I obviously am afraid of the dark. But people who are afraid of starvation will pack way too much food. Have you ever gone on any kind of a car trip and you get where you're going and you realize, oh my gosh, I have 12 bags of chips here. I have like, 2 coolers full of drinks.
Every time.
I must have thought I was gonna die. And people who are afraid of the cold or the elements, they'll pack too much clothing. And so, long story short, I started taking crap out of this shopping cart, and I realized I didn't really hike in the dark that much anyway. So I just brought one flashlight, just a regular, like one of those little mini mag flashlights with 2 AA batteries in it. I was like, that's going to be enough. And I said, I didn't really cook a lot of meals. So I didn't buy a stove. I put the stove in the back. I put the pot back. I put the fuel back. And I realized I mostly ate granola and oatmeal and noodles. And, whenever I would go into town, I would eat as much as I could at any restaurant that I could find. And oftentimes after this event, I would go a day or so without eating, because you could always pack crackers or tuna packets or whatever. It was a lot easier to eat cold camp. And now I'm not carrying so much weight. I didn't feel like I needed a water filter anymore. I just bought water purification tablets. I figured there's never been an emergency where I need to drink right now. Can I wait 20 minutes? Because you put a tablet in and you can wait. I could wait 20 minutes. And I realized through all of it that I didn't need nearly half the stuff. So there's this concept, and this concept goes like this. The more you have, the more you have to have. In the world of backpacking, and that applies to a lot of things, like the bigger your house is, the more mortgage you have, the more hours you have to work, the less time you have with your family, all this kind of thing, right? The more you have, the more you have to have. But in the backpacking world, it works like this. If you have so much stuff that your pack is really, really heavy, you're going to burn more calories, so you have to have more food. So that means you have to have a pack that's even heavier. Well, you're going to sweat more, so you have to have more water. So that means your pack is even heavier. The heavier your pack is, the more supportive your boots are. The heavier your boots are, the more calories you burn while you're walking. You see this? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, this is so profound. Yeah, so profound.
But the less you have, the more free you are. So in the backpacking world, that means I don't need heavy boots. I could probably do this with trail shoes. I don't need, how many layers of rain do I really need? Before this, I had a zip up coat that was waterproof. I had waterproof gaiters to cover the top of my shoes. I had the poncho. I had, all this waterproof. I realized a trash bag over the top of your pack, and the trash bag you can put your arms through, is every bit as good as the $400 Gore-Tex coat. So, and I realized I didn't need a really heavy sleeping bag, because if I got cold, I just started walking. And if I was tired, I pulled over and slept. So I changed everything about the traditional hike during the day, sleep during the night, stop to eat lunch, stop to eat dinner. I ate when I got hungry. I stopped when I was tired. If I was cold, I got up and walked. And it took me almost 2.5 months to get to Damascus, Virginia, which is, if it's not the exact middle of the trail, it's somewhere close to the middle of the trail. And then it only took me 6 weeks to hike the rest of the distance because I was lighter, I was faster, and I realized this one very, very important concept. And this concept applies to anybody who's trying to change their life. I'm an alcoholic, so I'm going to try, if you're a person who's trying to quit smoking or quit drinking or quit whatever there is, you can do it if you just remember this: start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So I realized that what was supposed to be sort of a tragedy, all my stuff was gone, turned out to be the most freeing and liberating experience ever, because when I replaced those things, I only replaced the things I needed.
Yeah.
Not the things I thought I wanted or what was comfort. So you have two options. You're on the trail, you have two options. You either enjoy the time you have on the trail or you enjoy the time you have in camp. If you enjoy the time you have in camp, you're going to bring big, luxurious, thick mattresses and foam pads and maybe even one of those folding chairs and a cooler. And you want to sit down in camp and go, yeah, I'm comfortable. Well, you don't spend as much time in camp as you do on the trail. So you should enjoy the trail. Once my pack was lighter, I was able to set my shoulders back. I wasn't looking down at the trail all the time. My head was up. All of a sudden I realized the views are outstanding. The weather is just perfect. The sky and the trees and all the colors that I was missing because I was laden with all of this weight that I did not need. I realized every single thing that I needed to enjoy life was right there on my back. I didn't need a house. I didn't need a car. I didn't need anything. I could turn around at the end of the trail and hike back. It's called a yo-yo hike, by the way. It's really cool. I want to do it again. But everything you need. So how does that apply to life? If you're an alcoholic and you think, I need to change my life and stop drinking, okay? Start right there. I want to stop drinking. Start now. I want to, boy, those people that are like, man, I really wish I could stop drinking, and they have a 12-pack in the refrigerator, throw it out. And go, well, I'm not going to throw this out because I'm just going to waste money because I know I'm going to be right back here again tomorrow because this is the 50th time I've stopped drinking. Okay, well, make 51 the time. Throw the shit away and stop. So start right where you are. And then use what you have. What do you have in your house or in your person or in your friends list or in your company resources or whatever it is that can help you stop drinking? What are those things? You can list them out. I'm going to use the case of nutrition also. Some people always say, I wish I could eat right. I'm going to get a nutritionist. I'm going to start a meal plan. I'm going to, do whatever. And I'm like, you don't need a nutritionist. Because if I set a plate full of unhealthy food in front of you and a plate full of healthy food, and I said, which one of these is healthier, you would know exactly which one you should be eating. So you don't need a nutritionist to tell you that. So just start eating the way you already know you should. Use what you have. What do you have? I know that a Snickers bar is not healthy. And there's this power of the accumulative effect. The accumulative effect works like this. What is the daily impact of an apple a day? Not just an apple, but an apple every single day. And then conversely, what's the impact of a Snickers bar? Well, one Snickers bar is not going to kill you, but a Snickers bar every day? What's the accumulative effect? So let's just say you are that person who wants to stop drinking. All right. So what's the cumulative effect? This is going to be my 51st time I've stopped drinking. Great. That's 51 days out of the year you didn't drink. What's the 365 days a year? You almost did it a quarter of the time. So do it another quarter of the time. Now you made it 102 days out of 365. Quit every other day, and you've made it 185 days out of 365. Quit every day, and you made it 365 days. So cool. Just use what you have. Start right exactly where you are. I saw something pop up, one of the comments from a person, you could find it and read it. She's living in her Mazda.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Yep.
Denise says, inadvertently, I'm living in my Mazda. Subsequent to a divorce, it was uncomfortable to reside with my pup and was devastated during those years. And now, pup Sunny, whom passed in 2021, was my greatest friend. Trails galore and free from a marriage that can find. Travel light. I love your light story. Oh, yeah. You're welcome. I thought you were going to ask a question about how to do it.
She's doing it.
So you can't take the emotion out of it. Anyway, so all of those things being said, and I've probably stolen the show with stupid advice from quotes and stuff I've heard before. But if you just keep wiggling the flag, trying to rescue yourself, if you're quitting smoking and you only made it one day this time, well, you made it one day. Because I had no idea how many days I was in there. I just knew I had to keep wiggling the flag. And then eventually, hour after hour, day after day, turned into 5 days. Well, if you quit as many times as you have to quit, day after day, it will eventually be full and you'll be done and you'll be rescued. And you rescued yourself. Self-rescue is the best rescue.
Ah, that's beautiful. See, I told you we're going to create miracles today. And that was unexpected. That wasn't the way I thought this conversation would go. And it is so profound, like so profound, especially for people who are, even if you're not trying to overcome an addiction or a pattern or behavior, if you're trying to create a dream and you're struggling in that dream and you're nowhere near where you would like to be in your mind, these same principles apply, right? Keep raising the flag. Do what you can for you, right?
Yeah.
So
if you can't save $10, save $1. If you can't
save $1.
If you're trying to create wealth and you've saved $1 today, like an entire dollar, then you're on the upward trend. If you overspent $1, well, then you need to change that. But even if people that say I want to create a life of wealth, well, first off, you probably need to define what wealth is, because remember, the more you have, the more you have to have. What's the wealth for? Is it the wealth for your family? Is it wealth for yourself? Is your definition of wealth a really fancy car and a really fancy house? Well, you have less freedom than the other people who don't.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
So if your definition of wealth is less freedom, go for it. But that's not my definition of wealth.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Powerful message. Ryan, final thoughts from you?
You know, you came on and said that, you know, you weren't that eloquent. Mark, I beg to differ, and I see your heart. I see who you are as a human being, and I see the emotions that come up as you're talking and retelling your story, and then the gratitude, and then also then turning around. You talk about people not coming to rescue you, but you have also become the message that can help somebody wake up to rescuing themselves, which is a rescuer per se as well. And I'm telling you, that was as good as any TED Talk that I have ever heard in my entire life. And who you are is inspiring. Don't stop. Keep sharing that message, that who you are in your heart. You are one incredible giant, and I'm so grateful that you were on the show today, because it made an impact on me. It made an impact on Nick. It made an impact on these people watching, Denise, Hugh.
Thank you.
everybody that's here commenting. I mean, Lori, Ray, there's so many great people on here that have benefited. B. Hendricks and everyone else that's commented. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure
It's
having
my
you here
pleasure
on
to
our
be
show.
here.
Yeah.
It's my honor.
It's remarkable. We've done over 250 of these interviews, and we curated those here at My 12 Journeys. But everyone has a message that ties into one of these 12 journeys. And it's so profound to me to see, something in your life is going to help somebody rescue themselves. Something in your life, that message that you just shared, both of them, right? Life happens. Things go ways we didn't expect, that we didn't want them to. And like you say, when you notice where you are, anchor in where you are, use what you have and do something, even those small steps accumulated create the complexity of our lives. And that's our mission. When I look at the giants and the smalls, this book was written in 2009, published in 2020. 4 years later, we've got a community of 4,200 members in the Tribe of Giants. We're building the My 12 Journeys community for those that want to up level. And it's our way of creating a positive ripple in the world. And even if we can impact one person, who knows if that one person is going to go affect another and another and another. Our mission is 100 million people globally, and it won't be done alone. It'll be because of people like you that share their story, and that ripples out. So I'm incredibly grateful for you. And for those that are watching, I hope you'll come join us over there. Come be a member of the My 12 Journeys community. If you want to partner with us with our framework in your coaching practice or consulting practice or therapy practice, come use our framework in your practice. It will blow your clients' minds and they'll never be the same. It goes back to that question we all started with. Who do you think you are? That's everything, right? And our goal is to remind you of who you are, and that's a giant, just like Mark. So, dude, I love you, man. I am so grateful.
Well, I'm grateful to be connected with this community. I didn't know anything about it until the wonderful Andrea Bangeter introduced both of us.
Yeah.
At an event together, and this is where it's gone so far.
And
I also want to put it out there.
Yeah.
If any of you guys want to share my contact info with anybody out there wiggling the flag, I'll help.
How do we get them in touch with you?
So my email address, it's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
Is athikerman@gmail.com. A as in Appalachian, T as in trail, hikerman@gmail.com.
Does this look right here? I'm going to push this up on the screen.
Yep.
Okay. We'll leave that up there for a minute. If you could give one final thought to the viewers, there's somebody on the other side of this screen, as you've seen, we go live with these, and somebody's going to watch this after the fact. And if you could sit with them face to face, just like you just shared right there, and tell them one final message before we wrap up here, what would you say to them?
That's a kind of a hard question because each individual person, I try to feel what does that person need to hear.
Yeah.
But the real what I usually say to anybody that is facing any type of a doubt is, I'm the least educated, the least talented, the least I told you at the very beginning, I was just in the right place at the right time, but I was enthusiastic about it. So whatever I ran into, I just decided I will never overcome whatever this issue is without a positive attitude. And so I'm just enthusiastic about whatever. I lost a job. All right, well, I'm enthusiastic about finding a new job. I'm enthusiastic about changing that. I've been divorced. Well, I'm enthusiastic about finding a new wife. I'm enthusiastic about finding a partner that will live. Whoever that partner is, my wonderful wife, Tiffany, I hope she's listening, has to live with this.
Yeah,
I'm enthusiastic about the journey that's going to take. So just live life enthusiastically. Nothing, the absolute worst day in the world can be turned around with the right level of enthusiasm.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. keep stepping, right? One thing we always say is giants still take small steps. They're just bigger. And so go take those small steps today. Yeah. Beautiful.
I will.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for watching. For those that are watching this, you know somebody in your life that could use this message. You know who they are. It might be you. You might rewatch this, but share this with somebody that you know in your world that would be impacted by this message today. Grab the link in YouTube or Facebook and comment and share with them why they should watch it and help change their world. This could be the message that changes their world. We're grateful for you. We know that we wouldn't be where we are without you. And we have never stopped stepping, and we hope you won't either. So walk alongside us as we create a world of giants. Make it a giant day.
Love you too.